Georgia continues to be the focus of the nation's political attention, and we are continuing to follow all of these developments here at Atlanta News First. Thanks for joining this edition of Political Update, broadcasting from our Midtown Atlanta studios. From the Atlanta News First Alert Desk, I'm Tim Darnell, and joined by producer Maria Moreau. And these are the headlines that we are following at this moment here on Political Update. The districts for the Cobb County school system have been thrown out by a federal judge who has deemed them unconstitutional. One of the new laws going into effect January 1st, 2024 has to do with health care and access for all Georgians. More bad news coming really daily for President Joe Biden's re-election campaign in the form of a number of polls showing widespread voter dissatisfaction. Former President Donald Trump's attorneys here in Georgia are seeking to dismiss the election interference charges against him. Former New York City Mayor and Ambassador Rudy Giuliani has been ordered to pay $148 million in damages to two former Fulton County election workers. And finally, former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows' request to move his case and his indictment out of Fulton County and into a federal court have failed, and he has fallen short in that endeavor. But first, one of our most popular stories this week. Last week, a federal judge threw out the Cobb County School District maps, ruling them unconstitutional. Last Thursday, the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Georgia blocked the Cobb County School Board from using its map. The court ruled Cobb County's Board of Elections enacted a racially gerrymandered school board map after the 2020 U.S. Census. Now, the latest injunction, approves a motion to block the Cobb County Elections Board from using the current map for its 2024 election cycle. The court also said it will work through a process that will allow a temporary map to be used in the next election, which is set for May 21st, 2024. Now, this lawsuit from which this injunction is stemming alleges that the map diminishes the ability of Black and Latino voters in Cobb County to equally participate in the process of electing school board members. The Cobb County School District is actually the second largest school district in Georgia. So that is a story we'll continue to follow as the school board and the courts in Cobb County undertake the lengthy process of redrawing its school board maps. Also happening in 2024, January 1st to be precise, one of our more popular stories this week on Atlanta News First has to do with a new law that takes effect January 1st. Now, most of the new laws that were drafted in the 2023 Georgia General Assembly went into effect July 1st, but not all of them. And this particular law is designed to give Georgia's insurance commissioner the power to force healthcare providers and insurance companies into providing equal access to basic and in-network medical care, regardless, basic medical care, specialized care, mental health care, etc., regardless of where Georgians live throughout the state. Now, new federal regulations requiring insurance providers to provide geographically equivalent services to every American took effect this year. But this particular bill that was introduced by Marietta Republican State Senator Kay Kirkpatrick now gives the insurance commissioner the ability to enforce the new federal regulations that require equal geographic access to in-network health care and medical care for all Georgians, regardless of what part of the state they live in. Thousands of Georgians and millions of Americans face lengthy commutes, depending on where they live, in order to have equal access to medical and health care. And this new bill, Senate Bill 20, taking effect January 1st, 2024, is designed to address that challenge. Also happening in 2024, we all know of a major election coming up roughly 11 months from now, possibly with runoffs happening a year from now. And that has to do with President Joe Biden, the presumptive Democratic nominee for the White House, and the man he defeated for the office, his predecessor, the nation's 45th president, Donald Trump, widely considered now to be a shoo-in for the GOP presidential nomination in 2024. Now, a new poll came out just recently showing President Biden trailing his predecessor and here in Georgia and several other battleground states. The poll from the Morning Consult that was conducted on behalf of Bloomberg News was released only a couple of days right after a CNN poll showed President Biden trailing Donald Trump in Georgia and another battleground state, that of Michigan. The latest poll from the Morning Consult, again conducted on behalf of Bloomberg News, shows Biden trailing Trump by 7 points here in Georgia. The poll surveyed almost or a little more than 800 Georgia voters from November 27th through December 6, 2023, has a margin of error of plus or minus 3 points. Now, in all 7 battleground states surveyed by the Morning Consult, Trump leads Biden in Arizona by 3 points, Georgia by 7 points, Michigan by 4 points, Nevada by 5 points, North Carolina by 11 points, Pennsylvania by only 1 point, and Wisconsin by 6 points. With the exception of Georgia and North Carolina, these results fall well within each state's margin of error. But President Joe Biden, as it stands right now, facing an uphill battle for re-election next year. As it relates to his presumptive opponent, former President Donald Trump's attorneys filed a motion earlier this week in Fulton County Superior Court seeking to dismiss Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis's charges of alleged election interference based on the right to free speech under the U.S. Constitution and the First Amendment. The former president's attorneys here in Georgia, Stephen Sadow and Jennifer Little, filed the motion on Monday seeking to, and basically arguing that because the former president did indeed believe that the 2020 election had been rigged and stolen from him and did not, and actually believed that he had won the 2020 election, his comments that he had made while in the Oval Office and immediately thereafter constitute free political speech. That is, the former president did not knowingly spread falsehoods or things that he knew to be untrue as it related to his electoral defeat in November 2020. Last month, Stephen Sadow, the president's lead Georgia attorney, former president, lead Georgia attorney, said the 45th President of the United States, his client, did indeed believe that he was the rightful winner of the 2020 election, and therefore all charges against him from Fulton County DA Fani Willis should be dismissed. Now here's an update from our political reporter, Doug Reardon, on this issue.
Special counsel Jack Smith wants the Supreme Court, not an appellate court, to decide whether Donald Trump can invoke immunity on charges he faces in the nation's capital and elsewhere, like in Fulton County. Trump's attorneys have already noted their intent to use presidential immunity as a defense against racketeering charges in Georgia, and a Supreme Court decision in their favor would be a huge advantage. But a ruling in favor of Smith could be devastating for Trump's defense in Fulton County, taking immunity off the table. During the Watergate scandal, the Supreme Court ruled that then-President Richard Nixon couldn't use presidential immunity to prevent turning over secret tapes that acted as key evidence in the scandal's investigation. It's the closest thing we have to precedent on this.
As our political reporter Doug Reardon, one of the co-defendants in the Fulton County election interference case is former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Now, this past week, a jury awarded $148 million in damages. This happened on Friday to two former Fulton County, Georgia election workers, Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. Now, they sued successfully, it turns out quite successfully, the former New York City mayor for defamation over conspiracy theories that he spread about them in 2020, basically alleging that they were involved in a scheme to steal votes from Donald Trump and turn them over to the eventual winner of the election, that being the newly elected president, Joe Biden. The damages that the jury awarded Freeman and Moss are based on the outcome of the many conspiracy theories spread by the former New York City mayor and the former president himself regarding the outcome of the 2020 election. CBS News, our national affiliate, has the latest on Rudy Giuliani and his $148 million damages settlement.
We hope no one ever has to fight so hard just to get your name back.
Shay Moss and her mother, Ruby Freeman, both former Fulton County election workers, say they received some justice Friday.
Money will never solve all of my problems. I can never move back into the house that I called home. I will always have to be careful about where I go and who I choose to share my name with.
The two faced death threats as a result of lies Rudy Giuliani was found liable for helping spread, saying the workers tried to rig the 2020 election. An investigation found the claims were not true. As a result of a defamation trial, a judge has now ordered Giuliani to pay $148 million in damages.
The absurdity of the number merely underscores the absurdity of the entire proceeding. When this case gets before a fair tribunal, it'll be reversed so quickly, it'll make your head spin.
Giuliani already said he plans to appeal.
When you are in a position of power, when you have that bully pulpit and you abuse it, there are consequences.
Atlanta criminal defense attorney Surichata Jimenez says in a case like this, legal proceedings are not over yet.
Lawyers are going to keep battling as to whether or not it was a proper verdict, whether or not there were errors done at trial throughout the whole phases of the trial.
And while it was a victory for these two women, the actual payout will depend on Giuliani's finances.
The victims might not see a dime, but at least they've been vindicated. They know that they did nothing wrong.
And another co-defendant in Donald Trump's alleged election interference trial here in Fulton County, Mark Meadows, his former White House chief of staff, he fell short again this week in trying to transfer his case from Fulton County into a federal court. Mark Meadows is charged alongside the former president and 17 others in a alleged scheme to keep Donald Trump in the White House after Democrat Joe Biden won Georgia in 2020. Meadows testified at a hearing in August that his actions taken on behalf of then President Trump were part of his job as the White House chief of staff. Mark Meadows had been seeking to move his case out of Fulton County and into a federal court unsuccessfully, and it looks like those attempts have finally run their course, because last week a three-judge panel of the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals rejected Mark Meadows' attempts to have his case tried in federal court. Another report from our hardworking political reporter, Doug Reardon, has this update on Mark Meadows' request.
Is covered by the removal statute because he did it as chief of staff. And that's not a very good argument.
If Meadows loses his appeal here and the Supreme Court takes the case, they could decide that all federal officials charged with a crime stand trial in federal court, not local or state courts. Meadows moving his trial to federal court certainly would have its benefits. He would get a larger and more lenient jury pool collected from the entire circuit instead of the Democrat-heavy Fulton County. Doug Reardon, Atlanta News First.
So those are the latest developments regarding these sweeping historic indictments of former President Donald Trump and 17 others who are alleged to have engaged in an organized crime-like scheme to keep the nation's 45th president in the White House after the lawfully certified results of the 2020 election. Those are all the political headlines that we're following. There will be more coming not only for in the rest of this year, but throughout 2024. And we hope that you will stay with Atlanta News First and AtlantaNewsFirst.com for the latest developments in the world of politics as it pertains to Atlanta, Georgia, and the nation. Thanks for watching.